Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Waterloo Wednesday. Excited about today. I thought I heard it's supposed to be like near 65 today, so I'm really excited about that. Hopefully, we can get back outside again. And it's been great working from home, still been busy and doing a lot of things here. But obviously, it is nice to get outside and enjoy the weather. We've got the lawn maintenance crew out today at the co-op, so if you hear some of that in the background, or if they come whizzing by or you hear that, then that's what that is. All right. So don't worry about that, but definitely excited about today and this week. If you are not on our email list, I want to encourage you to send your email to office@stbt.org. And also to my email, which is samwaterloo@yahoo.com. I'll put those two email addresses in the description box on this video. That way you can send in your email. That's for our membership. And I sent out some emails yesterday and then today that are all very important and would be helpful and exciting as well. And so I want to make sure that you take a look at those. We're also having this day is our prayer day, and so we're going to be having a prayer email sent out. This would be our normally scheduled prayer meeting on Wednesday nights and Wednesday morning, but we'll just send out the prayer email today, so there won't be any other video besides this one today. But you can send in to samwaterloo@yahoo.com. That's when you should send your prayer requests to. So that way we can get that on the prayer sheet for today. Try to send it before 5 p.m. and then I'll send that out this afternoon and evening. That way we can pray together. Though we're apart, we can be praying still together tonight and lifting up our prayers to the Lord. So those were just a few things I wanted to make sure I mentioned to you. I also had today, in addition to some of the encouragement that I wanted to give, I had a couple of verses that came to mind. One of them I came across in my devotions. I've been in Proverbs lately in my devotions, and I've enjoyed that. It's been a little while since I've been in Proverbs, so it's been wonderful to just get some great nuggets of truth. And so I had one of those I wanted to share that also brought to mind a verse in 1 Corinthians that I wanted to share. And those are just two verses really of admonition that would help us during this time. And then I'll finish up at the end with some encouragement from the book of James. The first verse that came to me through my devotions was Proverbs, and chapter number 19 and verse 15 says, "Slothfulness casteth into a deep sleep, and an idle soul shall suffer hunger." And it's that first part that especially caught my attention, where it says, "Slothfulness casteth into a deep sleep." I wanted to just encourage the church and admonish you to be aware of this time. For some of you, you maybe have more time on your hands than you've had in a very long time. And the temptation can be to get into slothfulness, to take it too easy in a sense. We ought to rest. We ought to definitely take this time to refocus our priorities and our values and really see what is most important in our lives, and to make sure our schedule and our life is structured around those things, and obviously structured around a relationship with the Lord. But there's also the temptation to be slothful and to not be productive with time, and to not really take advantage of this time to put effort into your relationship with the Lord, or things that are important like your family or other things like that. And what that can do is cast you into a deep sleep. It can actually lull you into an idleness where you can become asleep spiritually, where you can really retract back from doing those things that are important in life, and then but especially your relationship with the Lord. And so I just want to encourage you to be aware of that, to not fall into especially a spiritual slumber through this time, to make sure you're taking those steps forward still and doing whatever you can to not be slothful. That also made me think about another verse, 1 Corinthians in chapter number 15, and verse number 33 says, "Be not deceived, evil communications corrupt good manners." With the ability of our modern technology to connect us to people on social networks, to allow us to have access to a lot of media and shows and movies and things like that and entertainment, I just want to encourage you to be aware of what kind of company you're keeping. I know we're isolated. I know we're shut in at home, but we allow people into our homes and in our hearts and minds through the technological avenues that are out there. So just want to encourage you to be careful of what kind of company that you're keeping. There's a potential for all of us, as it says there, to be deceived. That's why it says be not deceived, because the potential can be that we can think, oh, I can enjoy these things, I can allow these things in my life and it not affect me, that I can kind of overlook those things, that it really isn't that big of a deal. And especially with TV and movies and all these things, we think it's just a movie, it's just TV, it's just entertainment, not that big of a deal. But it is a big deal. It does corrupt our habits, our manners, our actions, and the way we think and act. And so please just be careful of that and what you allow into your home, obviously for your family, but then for yourself as well. So be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. So I wanted to just admonish you with those two things about slothfulness and about what you're allowing into your home through this time. And even the people you might be connecting with on social media, beware of those things. Now I wanted to end with some encouragement. The Abundant Life class has been going through the book of James. It's been a wonderful study, and I've enjoyed it thoroughly. But I wanted to just share this with the church as we're going through this season and this time that could be considered a trial or a temptation. It's not necessarily something that would be leading us to sin, although, as I mentioned, there's definitely opportunity for sin to creep into the door, so we need to be aware of this. But it definitely, this time of trial and temptation can be something that weighs heavy on us or causes some problems. And so it gives some instructions here. James chapter 1 and verse number 2 says, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations." Verse 3 says, "Knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience." So it's an encouragement that through this time, although you might be facing temptations, these trials, meaning you might be at home with your family more than you normally are, and that's causing maybe some stress or some struggles. Maybe you're not able to work, and so it's causing some financial struggles or just even psychological issues of having to be alone and not out with people. There's some diverse or different kinds of temptations that this season could be bringing upon people. And the admonition from James here, though, is to count it all joy. I understand that can be hard. That doesn't mean that there's not pain or struggle or frustrations in temptations, but what he is saying is that there is a measure of joy that we can have and that we can take in these times of temptation. That we can still have joy through the midst of it. Why? Because knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. This is a time where we're putting into action our faith in Jesus Christ and what we believe about the Bible and our sufficiency in Him, and we're commanded to trust Him and to obey Him. And so this is a trying of our faith. We're having to put into action what we believe in a big way because of what's going on. And so it's being tried. Our trial of our faith, is being tried. Our faith is being tried, but the reason why we should count it all joy is because it worketh patience. This trying of the faith worketh patience. The idea of enduring and bearing up under trials and still obeying, still having faith, still continuing on in our obedience to the Lord, and that is what patience is, to continue on bearing up under the temptation and the pressure, and yet still being faithful, still obeying. It works patience. And why is patience good? Well, verse 4 tells us, "But let patience have her perfect work, that you may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing." And the idea of being perfect here is meaning mature. That's what patience leads to eventually, is that we become mature. We become more like Jesus Christ, that we become more righteous in our actions, in our thoughts, And we want nothing, as it says there, meaning that we're not lacking any maturity. And that's what God is aiming at through this time, is God can take any temptation or trial we go through and he can use it for our benefit. That's ultimately what God wants, is our faith to be stronger, our character to be developed, and to be more like Jesus Christ. And so that's why we can have joy, even though we're having to develop patience so that we can be perfect. It's still something to rejoice in, knowing that God's got good intentions and good purposes for what we're going through. And you might be facing a trial and a struggle right now, though, and you're just not sure, though, what to do. I'm thankful for verse number 5 here, where it says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. He gives some admonition, though. It says, but let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So there's some admonition there about asking in faith for wisdom. But if we do ask for wisdom, trusting God to give it, I love that promise there, that you'll get it. The wisdom is the right next step. If you want to know the right next step to take and what you need to do to make sure that you're pleasing God and honoring him, then ask for wisdom. He can give it. It may not mean that you'll know everything about the future, but you can at least know a decision that will allow you to please God and honor him. So I want to encourage you through this time to just be patient, to count it all joy, and allow patience to have a perfect work, that you may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. Lord bless you today.